The What's Happening Hoke show is filmed before a live audience and is sponsored by the Rock of Hoke, Rockfish Motor Speedway. What's Happening Hoke? We're back in the final segment, and joining me is Earl Richardson, race official at the Rock of Hoke. How you doing, Earl?
Glad to be here.
So we've asked you to come on a little bit before. You've been our own race official that's responded. We're gonna get some of the other guys. What is your role out there on the track on Saturdays?
I don't know exactly what you call like my job title or anything, but I mostly just do whatever needs to be done. A lot of the safety.
So exactly safety stuff. What goes on in the safety briefing to the drivers?
Well, by this point in the year, most of them pretty much know what to do. The meeting goes real quick. If there's a caution come out, slow down. They'll tell you go high, go low on the radio. They'll tell you which way to go, where the car is.
They've got each car. Y'all have radio communication with each car that's on the racetrack from the tower, which is
from the tower. Yes.
Now, do you guys inspect the cars prior to the race? Anything you're looking for? Maybe say, let me go look at this guy's car.
Well, mostly they just check the safety stuff beforehand. And then they have had some protest issues where we've had to check cars after the race to make sure that somebody wasn't cheating.
Like the Legends race week 2. Now, after each race, they have to go to the scales.
The top 5 in every category get weighed to make sure they're not too light.
Okay. If they're too light, what happens? They lose?
Yeah. Basically.
What would make them too light? Maybe they have the weight distributed in the car. Like, what's going to cause them?
They try to get every advantage they can. Some of them have it figured out to the point where they know how much fuel they need for a certain number of laps. You can run an extra lap and be off by just a little bit and be too light.
Okay. Tire inflate the whole nine. Weight of their own weight distribution as well.
Yeah.
Have they had any scale violations this year?
So far, so good.
Okay. And we're about to go into week 7. What do you think is going to be an issue? I talked to Larry earlier. We talking about the storms. What do you see as a concern going ahead as a race official that you're going to look for?
Well, I don't really think weather is going to be as much of a factor as far as rain, because we do have lights now. We didn't have lights last year.
Right.
So if we get a little rain and then it stops, and we can work in those windows to make that happen. The heat's probably going to be the biggest thing because that will dry the track out really fast.
Now, the water truck was down this past weekend, so you had to bring in some additional help. The purpose of wetting the track down is specifically for what?
If it gets too dry, it gets too hard, you don't have as much grip.
Okay.
It's kind of, dirt track racing is almost the opposite of asphalt and paved tracks when it comes to things like that.
Right.
You have to have moisture to keep it soft and to kind of hold it together. You also don't want too much because then it just creates a mess, and it's kind of a fine line, kind of a gray area. And we fight that when it's hot, we fight it when it's cold, when it's raining, when it's windy. You have to adjust. You can't do it the exact same way every week.
Now, how many times will it be wet down? I know outside before the practices, and then during the heats, and then I guess right before the races.
Yep. Typically, they'll wet it for each round of practice, before the feature. Depending on how hot it is, they might have to use a little more water. It's different from week to week.
Now, you are the official starter of each race, one of the flagmen. You had a yellow flag, obviously, for caution, but you also started. What now? And you taking your cues from the other flagmen to say, okay, start or don't start?
Well, he's actually starting the race.
Okay.
I'm basically just standing where they have it marked, where they're supposed to go.
Okay.
To let him know if anybody jumps, and we have had that happen a couple of times, and they go back and restart it. But
and any of you out there, you see anything, can wave a flash or bring it under caution, bring the race under caution.
Yeah, we have radios and flags.
Okay. Now, from the tower, they wave the white flag, 1 lap to go flag, and obviously the winner's flag as well.
Yeah, white flag, the checkered flag, all that's up there in the tower.
Now, last week, Colton Beasley flipped 2.5 times. What are some of the things, what are the immediate actions that you guys go? I know in previous week, you didn't want, as much as families see, they want to get out there on the track, or their racing team wants to rush the track to check on the driver, but they obviously can't do that.
Well, the problem with having too many people out there on the track, if you get too many people out there trying to get up to a red. Colton's situation was a little different. He was the only car out there. But we've had 10, 12, 600s. If one of them doesn't see you, you're going to get one over.
Right.
That's why we try to limit the number of people down there if something does.
Kind of like in the case with Tony Stewart, where the guy ran out on the track. I mean, that could happen out there. So.
Yeah.
What things do you think could be improved at the Rock? I mean, it's a great track. It's been there since 2008. With Brandon, do a great job getting in and out, getting the races time. And, you're on your way home, 9:30 maybe the latest, but that was because it was a late start due to the weather.
Right.
What do you think could be improved out there?
Having seen the way other tracks do things, I know we do things a little differently than some of them do. There's some things I've seen some other tracks do that we might want to try. The way they roll the track in, some of them get all the cars out there at once to try to roll it in.
Roll it in, right.
Some of them have vehicles that they put really wide tires on, and they just have a couple of their own cars to use as pack vehicles.
Okay.
That's something we've been talking about. We haven't found.
Will like one of those highway rollers help as well, or no?
We've tried that, and some people liked it. I personally didn't. I thought it packed it too hard.
Okay. But with each car out there, each driver also is getting a feel of the track as well as they roll it in. So that's a good thing as well. Anything else you want to tell us? What I mean, from a fan perspective, I get pretty excited about watching. It's a routine for you guys every week. But I mean, what should we look for in the coming weeks? I know it's going to get heated, but what are we looking for?
We've got more cars. We've got new cars coming, bigger crowds. That's going to lead to more action. It's going to make my job more
such as the mod lights. And you get more and more racers that are showing up every week, like the Jacob Hammock out of Winston-Salem. So that's exciting too.
12 years old.
12 years old in a 600.
Yeah.
And some of these guys may be familiar with the track, they may not be. So you guys got to brief them and reel them in. So like when Jonathan Grooms showed up, that was his first race of the year. Was that a particular car that said, hey, let's watch this car because this is his first race of the year?
Well, we were keeping an eye on him because he has been a little aggressive in the past. When you saw that the first week he came
Yeah, I did. I mean, spun out Eddie Daniels on lap one. I was like, wow, okay. But then it was where that he hit Tyler Cushman, hit Gomez as well. So he races aggressively, but is it racing competitively or is it reckless racing? I mean, he got 3 cautions and he was gone.
Well, yeah.
Pulled out at lap 10, but what do you feel that it is?
He wants to win. Everybody wants to win. There's a right and there's a wrong way to do it. If you're fast, go around it. Don't go through it.
Right. Now, obviously, he's brought notice to himself. That's a car you guys are going to watch every week now, as well as the new drivers coming. Was he briefed anything new going into the following week after he was suspended or pulled from after 3 cautions?
I mean, he's braced enough. He should have known better.
Right. Now, have y'all ever suspended a driver for a week?
We've suspended a couple of them in the past.
Wow. How long? A week at a time, or were they gone for the season?
Well, typically it's a 2-week suspension if somebody does get suspended. Typically, if someone does get suspended, it's a case-by-case thing depending on what they did. It's typically a 2-race suspension if somebody does get suspended.
So if it's 2 races left in the season, is that, hey, see you next year?
Well, as close as the points are, 2 races is going to kill you.
You're done. Yeah,
I mean, look at what it did to Levi.
He had engine problems, and he's in 3rd place. What's been the most graphic violation? Can you speak on that?
I don't know if it would be my place to say. I didn't agree with the way the situation was handled. I'm just going to let that go.
Yeah. With Jonathan Grooms we're talking.
No, that's not what I was talking about.
Oh, it was previous. Okay, we won't speak on that.
We won't go there.
No issues to traffic with the it's fenced in well. It's a great looking track. Great place for fans and families to come out there. You don't race yourself, like i.e. Jody McCall, who jumped in his son's car after he hit the wall and actually won that next week. He has an advantage because he's an official, and then he's racing as well. So I mean,
Well, Brownie sponsors him, and Jody has done a lot to help the track.
Right.
Like that light tower down there that lights
That's
up
part of
all the way
Jody
from here to Walmart. He
Wow.
wired that up.
wow, that's good stuff. So I would think that gives him an advantage, but he's a great official as well. I was able to talk with him as well. The president of the track is, I got his name, Dobler.
Yes. When are you gonna have him on?
You know, I would love to get Mr. Dobler on.
Oh,
I'll make sure.
if he comes on.
What is his first name?
Bill.
Bill Dobler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to get him on. As well as the vice president as well. Because, I mean, these are the types of questions. He did speak to me briefly about the night Jonathan Cruz was pulled. And he's like, hey, three cautions, he's gone. You know, he was put out on lap 10.
Well,
So
that's the 3 caution rule. That's mostly to keep the show going. We had
Right.
to put that in because we had one race and we were counting the laps. It was a 30-lap race that ended up taking 82 laps to
Oh
run
my God.
because they had so many cautions.
And people racing reckless or just the cars went out?
A little bit of both. There was some recklessness, and then there were some broken cars, but it just took way too long.
Last question. When a driver goes down or his car goes down, i.e. engine problems, loses a tire, they get an opportunity to pull that car off the track and fix it, right, and return to the race.
Right. If they can be fixed, we give them 3 laps.
3 laps. So 3 laps to rejoin the race, or that's it.
Right. And if it's something
Well, they're out for the
simple,
race.
if it's a flat tire or something like that, you can change that in 3 laps.
Right.
Some of the more serious things, if you have an engine problem, no, they're not going to do it. It just takes
You just
one
go to the
fix.
center of the track rather than just keep racing. Earl, appreciate it, man.
No
Thanks for
problem.
stopping by. Earl Richardson, track official. Join us at the Rock of Hope. Join us next week. Racing returns, week 7. Want to keep an eye on that. We're going to give you some film and video as spring football practice kicks off, taking you all the way up to August 21st, which is kickoff and beyond. Like us on Facebook, share our page, like us, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week. I'm Glenn Young. Hal Nunn will be back next week, but he doesn't need to come. I don't think. Or what do you think?
I think this is fun.
This was. I mean, Hal has. You got to understand. Hal has a face for radio. Glenn has a face for TV, and that's what they want to see. That's the way I believe about it. We'll see you next week on the What's Happening Hoke show, sponsored in part by Rockfish Motor Speedway, the Rock of Hoke.